What's up, YouTube? So in this video, I'm going to be going over my top 10 wide receivers from the 2022 NFL Draft Class. Starting off at number 10, John Mechie III from Alabama. He is 6 foot and 195 pounds. He did tear his ACL at the end of the 2021 season, but despite that, he is a real speed threat. If he gets behind you, good luck trying to catch him. And actually, despite his speed, he's actually a pretty solid route runner as well. Really good yak guy just from the speed and elusiveness. Very, very good for gadget plays. And actually, for his size, he's actually a pretty decent blocker too. Don't expect him to be very good at contested catches. That's just not his thing. And holding onto the ball through contact can be a bit of an issue for him. He also doesn't necessarily get through traffic very well. Press coverage has also been a bit of an issue for him at times. But overall, I think he is still a really good receiver. Now, I will say his speed and athleticism make him a really solid player. But with the receiving talent that's in this class and, the ACL tear he has, I wouldn't be surprised if he fell to like the late second, maybe somewhere in the third round. But I would not let him fall any further than that. So, moving forward to number 9, Beau Melton from Rutgers. He is 5'11 and 195 pounds. He has some really solid head fakes too when it comes to his route running. Has real speed to threaten the defense. Can accelerate very, very quickly. He is very good at catching defenders sleeping by starting to jog and then accelerating quickly. He's a really, really good yak guy. And actually, despite him not being a huge receiver, he's actually pretty physical when it comes to getting yak. He adjusts to the ball very well. He's very good in scramble drill. He'll come back to the quarterback very well. He's also not a very good contested catch guy. He's just not a bigger receiver, so that's not what you'd really be trying to use him for anyway. I do think he could be better with his hands as far as defeating press coverage. His hands as far as catching the ball are fine. It's just I want to see him swipe some hands away and get upfield a little bit better. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a great route runner, but he has very quick feet, and like I said, he does have some head fakes to him, so I do see some upside for him as a route runner, but it's not quite there yet. I think he also falls somewhere in the late second, somewhere in the third, somewhere around there. And he also had a very, very good Senior Bowl. That's where I really took notice of him. And so, yeah, let's move forward to number 8. George Pickens from Georgia. So he's 6'3 and 200 pounds. He's a pretty decent blocker when he wants to be, but sometimes he kind of chooses not to block. And he does definitely have some speed to him, some very solid body control. Definitely has the speed and size to be a good deep threat. Feet aren't necessarily the quickest. Route running is definitely lacking. His hands are pretty good. Sometimes he does have some focus drops, though. Some better quarterback and O-line play could have made him a little bit better than he was. He also tore his ACL, so that is a concern. But I do really like him. So, yeah. I see him probably as a late second, early third as well. That ACL tear, but he's just a different type of receiver from the other guys I've spoken about. So let's move forward to Skye Moore from Western Kentucky. He's 5'10 and 195 pounds. If you're familiar with Jeff Kavanaugh, he won't shut up about this guy. And it's for a good reason. He's a very good player. He ran a 4.41 40 at the combine. Very, very solid ball skills. Great with contested catches. His route running is solid, but not elite. But he is just a tough-ass player. Very solid burst to him. I'd say his speed is really solid, but it's not at that elite Tyreek Hill level. But his toughness paired with his athleticism makes him a very, very interesting receiver. And he was very good in the gauntlet drill at the combine as well. I am a big fan of Skye Moore. So I see him probably being just a second-rounder straight up. So let's move forward. Drake London. I know a lot of people have him higher than I do. But that's okay. From USC. He's 6'5" and 210 pounds. If you're familiar with my channel, I'm usually not as big on the big body contested catch guys. But at least not as much as the route runners. But that's okay. So he's 6'5" and 210 pounds. And for his size, he has very quick feet. And his route running actually isn't bad for being as big as he is, which is why I do still really like him. But he is just what you would expect. He's very good at contested catches. He has experience playing in the slot and out wide. I wouldn't necessarily say he has that true elite speed that you're looking for, but I think it's solid enough to be a good player. I do think he's very good for short and intermediate routes. I think he's going to be a zone coverage beater for sure. He's also a willing blocker, but I think he could be a little bit better at about that. And he also uses his physicality to get yards after catch at a pretty good rate. So I do like him a lot. Moving forward to number 5, Jahan Dotson from Penn State. So he is another guy who plays outside and in the slot. He's a willing blocker, but not very good at it. But he is a smaller receiver. He's 5'11", 184 pounds, so you're not really expecting him to be a great blocker. But he has very quick feet. Has a solid hand and head fake to him. Really solid route runner. For his size, he actually high points the ball pretty well. Plenty of speed. He's not at that true elite level, but he definitely has enough to be a real deep threat for you. Some nuanced route running to him. Has some real explosiveness. Natural hands catcher. And actually for his size, he actually defeats press coverage very well with his hands, which is great. His quick feet and speed definitely make him a good yards after catch player. I also think he could probably do some special teams at a pretty good level as well. Very competitive, very confident. I could see him possibly sliding into the first, but there's a lot of good receivers in this class, so he'll probably fall to the second, if I had to guess. So let's move forward. Jameson Williams. This guy is interesting. So he's 6'2" and 189 pounds from Alabama. He is another torn ACL guy. So that is going to be concerning. But he is a true long speed threat. And he deals with press very, very well. He's not the best at contested catches, but again, that's not what you're going to be asking him to do. He has some really solid route running. Not the strongest guy in the world, but that's okay. Again, you're not looking for that with this type of receiver. He does have some experience with returning kicks. Very, very good yards after catch guy. He did, again, tear his ACL in the national title game, so that is probably going to hurt his draft stock and probably make him like a second rounder, but I definitely think he is a first round talent. He is definitely a man coverage beater. And I just really, really like him. I think with his speed and route running, it's just very clear to me that he should be in this top 5. I did have a hard time between him and Jahan Dotson, like who I wanted to be over the other. But if Jameson Williams can get back to where he was, I do think he is the better of the two. So, but if you want the safer pick, then go with Dotson because he doesn't have that injury concern. So, moving on to number 3, Treylen Burke. So you should know who the top 2 are, just where they're going to be ranked with each other. But anyway, Treylen Burke. So he's 6'3" and 225 pounds. He is the biggest receiver on this list. Very big hands, very big body receiver. Has some really solid speed for his size. Not a very big route tree, but that's not what you're going to be asking him to do. He's not really much of a route runner, but again, that's not what you're asking him to do. He has experience playing inside and outside. He does push off sometimes, but he's pretty good about getting away with it. Very solid downfield threat just with his size and speed. He's actually got some really good body control as well. Makes very good contested catches. Has some concentration drops sometimes. And he will get some PI calls at times. Just because, like I said, he does push off. And most of the time gets away with it, but he will get some PI calls. But where he really makes his money is with yards after catch. He is just such a physical runner. If you want a Deebo Samuel in this draft, this is the closest you're going to get. So, again, with receivers, I try not to look at what they can't do and try to just look at what they can do. Like, if you compare Jameson Williams and Treylen Burks, you're not going to ask them to do the same thing. Like, you're not going to ask the 6'3", 225-pound man to be the nuanced route runner of your team. Just like you're not going to ask the 189-pound man to be the big body bruiser. That just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? You are drafting these people hopefully with a plan in your head. And if that's the case, I think Treylen Burks can be a very, very good player for you. So, and honestly, these top 3 guys, I think, just kind of come down to preference. So let's go ahead and go to number 2, Garrett Wilson. A lot of people are going to have him as their number 1 receiver, and I completely understand it. I went back and forth with this in my head for a while, but this is what I've decided on. He is 6 foot and 193 pounds from Ohio State. He has some really, really solid speed to him. It's not elite, and he doesn't look as fast just because he's next to Chris Olave, but he still has plenty of speed. Can definitely get you some yards after catch. Definitely has some shiftiness. Really, really good head and hand fakes. Very good hip fakes. Really solid, nuanced route running. Like, elite level route running coming out of this draft. Like, he is definitely the best route runner in this class for sure. He does it with a plan. He sets people up, play by play. Can play outside and in the slot. Probably going to play more so in the slot, but that's okay. And considering he's not that big, he high points the ball very, very well. And I think he is a really, really solid route running wide receiver who is... He's a number 1 receiver right away. And in most years, he would be my number 1. But not this year. Chris Olave is my number 1 receiver this year. The other guy from Ohio State. He's 6'1" and 189 pounds. He has played some punt return in the past, which is good. And he has absolutely dangerous speed. He ran like a 4.26 40. Like, he is blazing fast and gets to that top speed very quickly with his acceleration. Very good feet. Sinks his hips very good. And here's the thing. He isn't just fast. He's also a really, really good route runner as well. And he uses that explosiveness to just finish off those routes. Like, Garrett Wilson is the better nuanced route runner than Chris Olave, but Chris Olave's explosiveness makes him almost just as good of a route runner, even though he's not as technically sound with it, if that makes sense. Very good at getting yak just with his quick feet and speed. Very good ball tracking. He is a very deadly deep threat. Can play out wide and in the slot. He didn't really see as much production this year. Same thing with actually Garrett Wilson as well. C.J. Stroud seemed to have a harder time finding the two of them, but when they had a decent quarterback last year, their production was a little bit better. And actually for his size, he's also not afraid to block, which is nice. And also he deals with press coverage pretty well as well. So, yeah, big fan of Chris Olave. But again, if you wanted to put Garrett Wilson over him just because of that nuanced route running, I understand. And even if you wanted to put Treylen Burke as your number 1 because you're looking for a Deebo Samuel type receiver, I understand it. It's just like a preference thing. And I'm not usually speed guy. I'm usually route runner guy. But when you pair that elite speed with that really, really solid route running, it's tough to beat that. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, I appreciate you hitting that like button. If you have any questions or comments in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.